Hello everyone, I am NSG Saranya, Assistant Professor, Mechanical Engineering Department, BBC Engineering College, Autonomous Nodal Review. So in the series of videos lectures of instrumentation and control systems, today we are going to see the topic measurement of pressure. So in this lecture we are going to cover the topics like introduction and definition of pressure, terms related to pressure, and explanation of instruments like principle, construction, operation, applications, advantages and limitations of several pressure measurement instruments. So the measurement of pressure is one of the most important measurements as it is used in almost all industries. So some of the important applications like pressure of steam in a boiler is measured for ensuring safe operating conditions of the boiler, and pressure measurement is done in continuous processing industries such as manufacturing and chemical industries, and also it helps in determining the liquid level in tanks and containers, and it also helps in determining the density of liquids. And in many flow meters like Venturi, orifice, flow nozzle, pressure measurement serves as an indication of flow rate, and measurement of pressure change becomes an indication of temperature like pressure type thermometers, which we have seen in the earlier class. And as part of from this, pressure measurement is also required in day-to-day situations such as maintaining optical pressures in tubes of vehicle, etc. So for this purpose, so first we have to learn what is pressure and what is the different types of instruments are there to measure the pressure, and we have to know which instruments has to be used at which condition according to our requirement. So if you see the definition of the pressure, so generally what is the pressure, we can define it as a force per unit area. But if you go by the general definition, it is the force exerted by a medium on a unit area due to the interaction of fluid particles among themselves. Now we will see the terms related to the pressure. So this can be explained with the help of a simple diagram. So here it was an atmospheric reference line, means it was a reference line for the normal atmospheric pressure. So we will see atmospheric pressure. So what is atmospheric pressure? The pressure due to the air surrounding the Earth's surface is called as atmospheric pressure. This can be denoted by PA. Now you will see the absolute pressure. So what is absolute pressure is the pressure intensity measured from a state of perfect vacuum is called absolute pressure. So first of all, what is vacuum is if the population of molecules is negligibly small, means which is nothing but perfect vacuum, that is called as vacuum state. So below the atmospheric pressure, this one we can say it as vacuum pressure. So if you take the reference of this vacuum pressure line, so this is called as absolute reference line. So if you make any pressure with reference to the vacuum, that is called as absolute pressure. So see here, if you take this as the reference line and if you measure the pressure, this is called absolute pressure. If the absolute pressure is greater than atmospheric pressure, so this will become the absolute pressure. We are making the reference as absolute reference line. If the absolute pressure is less than atmospheric pressure, means below this one, then this will become as a absolute pressure. Next one is vacuum pressure. When the atmospheric pressure is greater than the unknown pressure, the pressure measured by the instrument is called as the vacuum pressure. So means we can say it different way. So when the measured pressure is lesser than the atmospheric pressure, then also it is called as vacuum pressure. Means normally the pressures lesser than the atmospheric pressures are called as vacuum pressure. And next one is gauge pressure. So normally gauge pressures means a pressure measuring instrument measures the difference between the unknown pressure P and the atmospheric pressure PA. So when the unknown pressure P is greater than the atmospheric pressure, then it is called as the gauge pressure. So usually the pressure measured by the instrument is called as gauge pressure. These are the different types of pressures we can observe, and these are the relation between the absolute, gauge, atmospheric and vacuum pressures. Now if you see here, so these are the different types of instruments we have for the measurement of the pressure. Suppose see here, for low pressures usually we will use manometers. For high and medium pressures we will use Bourdon tube, diaphragm and bellows gauges. So for low vacuum and ultra high vacuum we will use McLeod thermal and ionization gauge. And for high pressures, we will use Bourdon tube pressure gauge, diaphragm gauge, and bulk modulus pressure gauge. Now we will see the Bourdon tube pressure gauge. So the principle of this pressure gauge is when elastic transducer is subjected to a pressure, it deflects. So this deflection is proportional to the applied pressure when calibrated. So already have seen Bourdon tube pressure gauge in the lecture 1 and lecture 3 with measurement of temperature. So it was an elastic transducer which is fixed and open at one end to receive the pressure which is to be measured. The other end of the Bourdon tube is free and closed. So the cross section of the Bourdon tube is initially elliptical. So the Bourdon tube is in a bent form that looks like a circular disc. So to the free end of the Bourdon tube, an adjustable link is attached, which is in turn connected to a sector and pinion. So to the shaft of the pinion, a pointer is connected, which sweeps over this pressure calibrated scale. This is pressure calibrated scale. So coming to the operation of the Bourdon tube, so the applied pressure means initially the pressure to be measured is connected to the fixed open end of the Bourdon tube. So the applied pressure acts on the inner walls of the Bourdon tube. Due to the applied pressure, the Bourdon tube tends to change in cross section from elliptical to circular. So initially it was elliptical shape. Gradually to the pressure applied on the walls, it will tends to circular shape. So this tends to straighten the Bourdon tube, causing a displacement of the free closed end of the Bourdon tube. So due to this, what will happen is, so the Bourdon tube tends to deflect, means actually it was in the circular arc shape. So it will tends to straighten the Bourdon tube. So this causes a displacement at the free closed end of the Bourdon tube. So the displacement of the free closed end of the Bourdon tube is proportional to the applied pressure. As the free end of the Bourdon tube is connected to the link, sector, pinion arrangement, the displacement is amplified and converted to a rotary motion of this pinion. So as the pinion rotates, it makes the pointer to assume a new position on a pressure calibrated scale to indicate the applied pressure directly. So as the pressure in the case contained in the Bourdon tube is usually atmospheric, the pointer indicates gauge pressure. So this is how Bourdon tube will works. So coming to the applications of Bourdon tube, so these are used to measure very medium to very high pressures. And coming to the advantages, the cost is very low, accurate results, simple in construction, and safe even for high pressure measurement, and very accurate, especially at high pressures. But in spite of all these advantages, we have limitations also. They respond slowly to change in pressure, and they are subjected to hysteresis. It cannot be used for precision measurement, and the application is must as the displacement of the free end of the Bourdon tube is low, and they are sensitive to shocks and vibrations also. So these are the applications, advantages, and limitations of Bourdon tube. So next one we are going to see is elastic diaphragm gauge. So the principle of Bourdon tube and elastic diaphragm and bellows are same. See here, but what is the main difference is, here if you first see the principle, an elastic transducer is subjected to a pressure, it deflects. This deflection is proportional to the applied pressure when calibrated. So elastic transducer, in the case of Bourdon tube pressure gauge, the sensing element, the elastic transducer is Bourdon tube, and here in the elastic diaphragm gauge, the elastic transducer, the sensing element, the pressure sensing element is diaphragm. So that is the difference between Bourdon tube and elastic diaphragm gauge. So see the figure, this is the elastic diaphragm gauge where the displacement is sensed by means of mechanical means. So see here, this is our diaphragm, means our sensing element. So this is a thin circular plate which is fixed firmly around its edges. So the diaphragm may be either flat or corrugated. So here what we use is corrugated diaphragm. So the top portion of the diaphragm is fixed with a boss of negligible weight. This boss is in turn connected to a link, sector, pinion mechanism. A pointer is connected to the pinion, which makes it sweep over a pressure calibrated scale. So if you see the operation, the bottom side of the diaphragm is exposed to the pressure which is to be measured. So due to the applied pressure, the diaphragm deforms. So that is the diaphragm tends to move upwards. So due to the applied pressure, the diaphragm tends to move upwards. So this deformation of the diaphragm is proportional to the applied pressure. So this deformation is magnified by the link sector pinion arrangement. So that is, linear displacement of the diaphragm is converted to a magnified rotary motion of the pinion. When the pinion rotates, it makes the pointer attached to assume a new position on the pressure calibrated scale, which becomes a measure of the applied pressure. So as the top side of the diaphragm is usually subjected to the atmospheric pressure, elastic diaphragm usually read gauge pressure. So this is the working of elastic diaphragm gauges. So this is another type of elastic diaphragm gauge where the displacement is sensed by secondary transducer. Here the secondary transducer we used is capacitance transducer. So instead of normal corrugated diaphragm, we used flat type diaphragm, and a boss was linked to this flat type diaphragm. To this boss, capacitance transducer was attached. Okay, now you will see the working of this diaphragm. So normally a pressure which is to be measured is exposed to the bottom side of the diaphragm. So due to applied pressure, the diaphragm deforms, means the diaphragm tends to move upwards. So what will happen now, as the diaphragm move upwards, so here what we have done, a parallel plate capacitor was attached to the boss. So as the diaphragm deflects upwards, what will happen, so this parallel plate capacitor which was attached to the boss, the distance between the two parallel plate capacitors will decrease, means the gap between the parallel plate capacitors was reducing. So this makes the capacitance change. This change in capacitance of the capacitor becomes a measure of the applied pressure. So this is called a secondary transducer because we are not getting the measurement directly. So what was happening here, this diaphragm was deflecting, which leads to the reducing gap between the parallel plate capacitors. Then we are getting the measurement, means after two translations we are getting. So we have discussed already. This is called secondary type of measurement. So this is how elastic diaphragm gauge by secondary transducer will work. So already you know what is capacitance, C equal to K into epsilon into A by D. So if the distance between the two parallel plate capacitor decreases, its capacitance increases. Now the change in capacitance becomes the measure of the pressure if you calibrate it. So coming to the applications of this elastic diaphragm gauge, so they are used to measure medium pressures, but they can also be used to measure lower pressures including vacuum in different conditions, and they are used to measure draft in chimney or boilers. And main advantages are, if you see by the construction, we can say the cost is less, they have a linear scale of a wide range, and they are safe to use, no permanent zero shift, and they can measure absolute and gauge pressure and sometimes differential pressure also. But what is the limitation is, shock and vibrations affect their performance. When used for higher pressure measurement, the diaphragm gets damaged. These gauges are difficult to be repaired. So the next one we are going to see is bellows gauges. So the principle of bellows gauge is also similar as bottom tube pressure gauge and elastic diaphragm gauge. So what is the difference is, here that elastic transducer we are using is bellows, means the pressure sensing element is bellows. So what is the principle? When an elastic transducer is subjected to a pressure, it deflects. This deflection is proportional to the applied pressure when calibrated. So here the pressure sensing element is bellows gauges. So generally we have two types of bellows gauges, namely bellows gauges to measure normal gauge pressure and to measure differential pressure. So the bellows element is cylindrical in shape, and the wall of this cylinder is thin and corrugated. So the wall of the bellow is about 0.1 mm thick and is made of some springy materials such as stainless steel, brass or phosphor bronze. This bellows element is open at one end to receive the applied pressure and is closed at the other end. So this other end is usually attached with a rod. In many cases, spring is placed inside the bellows to enable the bellows to regain its original shape and the applied pressure is relieved. So if you see this figure, this is bellows gauge to measure gauge pressure. So here, see here, in a bellows, one end is fixed, so one end is fixed and open to receive the applied pressure. The other end of the bellows is closed and attached to a rod externally. A spring is placed inside the bellows. So to the rod attached a link sector pinion arrangement. So that to the pinion a pointer which sweeps over a pressure calibrated scale is attached. So coming to the operation, the pressure to be measured is applied to the fixed open side of the bellows. So to do the applied pressure, the bellows expands lengthwise, causing a linear displacement of the rod at its closed free end. So this linear displacement is proportional to the applied pressure. As the rod is connected to a link sector pinion arrangement, the linear displacement of the rod is magnified and converted to a rotary motion of the pinion. As the pinion rotates, it makes the pointer attached to it sweep over a scale calibrated to read pressure directly. As the pressure outside the bellows is manually atmospheric pressure and less than applied pressure, the bellows gauge reads gauge pressure. So this is the figure which shows the bellows gauge to measure differential pressure. So the construction is same as normal bellows gauges only, but here we are using two types of bellows gauges which were commonly attached to the one equal arm lever. Now you will see how it was used to measure the differential pressure. So suppose the pressures P1 and P2 are connected to bellows as shown. So when P1 equal to P2, the bellows will expand by the same amount, causing the equal arm lever rotate, but this will not cause any movement of the sector pinion arrangement. Then the pointer will read 0 on the scale. When P1 is greater than P2 or P2 is greater than P1, that is under differential pressure, the two bellows expand by unequal amounts, causing the equal arm lever to rotate. Now due to the movement of the equal arm lever, the link pushes the sector causing the pinion to rotate. So when the pinion rotates, the pointer attached to it sweeps over the scale, indicating both the direction and the magnitude of the differential pressure. So this is how bellows gauges will work to measure the differential pressure. So coming to the applications, already we have seen. So mainly it was used to measure medium and low pressures, and they have a wide application in low pressure measurement also. So advantages, they can measure both gauge and differential pressures we have seen now, and they are not very costly and very simple and rugged in construction. So coming to the limitations of the bellows gauges, so they cannot be used for high pressure measurement, and inside the bellows we are placing the springs which are difficult to design, and always you have to compensate the temperature before using the bellows. And next one, there will be a zero shift problems in this bellows pressure gauges.